What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Happier, Healthier Arkansas podcast hosted by the Specific Chiropractic Centers. I'm Dr. Cam.
And I'm Dr. Chris, and we just want to thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button, and thank you for joining us on our mission towards making Arkansas the happiest and healthiest state on the planet. Welcome to Happier, Healthier Arkansas. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Brown, on a solo episode today. Dr. Cam is out on paternity leave. He had a beautiful baby daughter 2 Sundays ago, first name Selah, S-E-L-A-H. And so I'm here today on my own. I'm going to be going in with you guys on daily health habits. That tends to be the most common question that I get is, Dr. Chris, what do you do for your health? Because you give all these recommendations to us, all these tweaks, things that I've never even heard of. So what do you do? So that's what I'm going to be bringing to the table today, not through the lens of a doctor myself, but also lens of a former student Division I athlete, also through the lens of someone who walks their own talk. Now, before I start getting into everything, I want to put out a disclaimer, just a little bit of background evidence of what I'm doing and everything. In March of 2023, 8 months ago, I did a 3D body scan that scanned my body fat percentage, muscle mass, lean body mass, basal metabolic rate, BMI, gave me a bunch of metrics objectively. And there I weighed 167 pounds. I had 135 pounds of lean mass, 33 pounds of body fat mass, and I was 20% body fat. Did the scan again last night, and I gained 20 pounds of muscle, dropped 20 pounds of fat, dropped 11% body fat, went from 20% down to 9%, and I gained a pound in the process. During these past 8 months, I've been working out less. I have been eating much cleaner. I have been tracking my sleep, and I have been just consistent. And so today, as I flow through all the things that I think are very beneficial for overall human health, the main thing that I hope you guys get out of this is not what to do, but how to think about doing it, how to think about being consistent, and the mindset that I've adopted behind this. I'm not going to go in on why I do all the things I do, because that would end up being a 3-hour Andrew Huberman episode, which those are fantastic, great to do when meal prepping. But today we're going to be going in on Dr. Chris's daily health habits. This is coming from a former person who used to fall asleep at the TV randomly, eat and drink whatever I wanted, right up till bed. Drink juice in the morning, eat anything and everything, being consistent with exercise, not care about sleep. As a Division I athlete, I was doing that, and I wish I was doing the things that I was doing now. So here are some of the current tips that I have incorporated over the past 2 years. Once again, this is all about the mindset with a little dash of physiology. The tea that I'm drinking today, this episode is not officially sponsored by Yogi, but it is. My tea combo is Spice Blackberry Focus times Kava Stress Relief. Trying out new combo today. Let's see what we got. Ooh, that's pretty nice. That's pleasant. I like it. All right, daily health habits. This is a typical day for Dr. Chris. Strap in your seatbelts. Alarm starts going off at 5 a.m. Then I will start, first thing I want to do is get my heart rate up. So some kind of exercise, typically push-ups. Bathroom, brush teeth, scrub tongue. Then I have a glass of water with creatine. Then I go and do a 15 to 45 minute workout, primarily doing body weight and trying to be efficient and effective while also mixing in some mobility. Then I take a cold shower. I'll do a round of Wim Hof in that cold shower, and I also recite a poem that gets my mind right. Then I go make myself a cup of tea. I'll sit outside on my balcony, read a little bit, and then I'll meditate, and then my day actually begins. So all those things, that was 11 things. I get all those done before 7:45 a.m. Then I get to clinic, then I'm in doctor mode, getting stuff done, probably till about 1 o'clock. And then I need to reboot. That's typically when my brain starts to crash. So I like to get outside. Typically I'll go get some sunlight, whether it be laying on a table or going out for a walk. And then when I get back into the clinic, typically I'll do some type of breath work, Personally, I like to do Wim Hof. Really saturates my system with oxygen, which is actually what our body needs for energy. Then I'm going and getting stuff done from about 3 to 6, kind of back half burst. So overall, I'm in the clinic from 8 to 6, mixing in steps, sunlight, breath work, middle of the day, not caffeine, not coffee. When I get back home, typically I'll go out and do something active or fun from around 6 to 7, whether that be kayaking or hiking or just throwing down a lawn chair and catching a sunset. I love sunsets. Mixing in things that I actually enjoy. Well, I enjoy all these things actually. From around 7 to 8, that's when I'll probably watch some sports. I've started to do journaling lately, in which case those questions are, you write out your purpose, your win of the day, struggle of the day, or challenge of the day, what you can do to improve that challenge, what resistance do you need to lean into, and where can you give yourself more grace. So you do those at the end of the day, every day, becomes a pretty good recipe. Then one of the best things I do for my day in that evening is I'll prep my next day, and I'll try to think of as many little details as possible. So even just a text message I need to send to that specific person about a specific topic, I'll write that down. So that way when I get to my day the next day, it's there. I don't even need to think about it. I just look at my list. Boom. Okay, let's just go get this done. It becomes mindless. And then favorite part of the day, around 8:15, I call my mama back in California and I FaceTime her until I go to bed. And I try to be in bed at 9. And when I get to bed at 9, I read before going to bed. And that helps prime my system to go to sleep. And I also sleep with my mouth taped shut. So I just rattled off 24 things that I do during the day, and majority of them are for my own health, for consistent well-being, for consistent energy, consistent mood, consistent outlooks. But really, it breaks down, that probably seems a little bit chaotic. They're like, okay, you just rattled off 24 things, and honestly, I don't know why you do any of that stuff. So let's make this a little bit simpler. Let's start working this down. So in the mornings, very, very particular about mornings, because that's the only time that you have to yourself. Typically, when you wake up, you might start having some kids get woken up, then you have to start playing the role of parent, or you go to business, go to work, and now you have to play the role of you the employee, or you the business owner. And then when you get home, you have to play the role of being a mom, or being a dad, or being a husband, wife, or it's just output to other people. And so the mornings are a very precious time that you have for yourself to be able to have a ton of input to get you primed and ready for the day. And those categories of input focus on something physical, something mental, something emotional, and then also something spiritual. So if you are able to create a little bit of a recipe that governs and overlaps with all of those things, you're going to end up getting primed for a really good day. Typically for me, the main thing is movement. Doesn't matter what it is, just move, get my heart rate up, start getting blood flow, start bringing in positive nutrients and resources to areas of my body, especially my brain, to help wake it up, while also flushing out any kind of waste products that might have accumulated from the day before that did not get properly cleared out by sleep. Cold exposure to prime my nervous system, wake up my sympathetics, parasympathetics, wake up my adrenals, hormones. There are a ton of benefits with cold exposure, including mental health benefits. Always try to drink water before tea, and typically I like to have magnesium in my tea. I use a brand called Keto Chow, which is a liquid electrolyte. Then I will read and then meditate. So those cover, if you think about the 4 brackets of movement, or of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Movement helps cover physical, because it's actually physical well-being. Movement also helps improve mood, so emotions. Movement also helps improve just your mentality, because you did something difficult for yourself, some kind of resilience builder that now when you go and tackle the rest of your day, you're going to be able to handle it. And it covers those 3 things. So one exercise covers 3 buckets. It's pretty good. Cold exposure helps out with physical because it stimulates brown fat thermogenesis, which helps with mobilizing areas of fat that use for heat, and that can be used for energy. That's healthy fat in our body to stimulate that. in terms of mental. When we are doing cold exposure, it stimulates to our body and our brain, this is a stressor, get me out. So it makes you freak out. So it actually turns on that primitive brain that we have in our body, in our system, turns on the primitive mechanism of fight or flight. Now, when you stay in that cold exposure and you consciously override it, you are accessing part of your brain that deals with executive decision making, cognitive function, overall outlook, memory, and you're causing it to override this primitive reactionary response. So by doing so, you're starting to train yourself to not be reactionary to stressors that occur during the rest of the day that come up unexpectedly, because that's how life works. You will be more amped and prepared to handle those stressors due to the training that you're doing in cold exposure. On top of that, when doing cold exposure, there is a 550 times increased release of epinephrine and norepinephrine, which are mood-boosting hormones and neurochemicals that saturate our system and our body and our brain. In addition, we have 250 times more dopamine getting released relative compared to coffee or scrolling on your phone, doing things like that. And so with these increase in dopamine, these spikes and these increases continue to occur even up to 2 hours after stimulus, compared to coffee, where if you wake up, first thing you do is drink coffee. Coffee works on our adenosine system, which actually doesn't make us feel awake. It prevents us from feeling tired. But the thing is that those molecules, adenosine molecules, will continue to accumulate in our brain, in our body, and when the caffeine wears off, roughly around 2 hours, those sleep molecules called adenosine will bind even harder to the sleep receptors, making us feel drowsy. That's why we have that crash after drinking a cup of coffee. About an hour and a half later, we're just spent, and now we think we need to go have more coffee. So how does energy in the body actually work? Energy in the body requires magnesium, requires water, and it requires oxygen. So when we get tired, our body is not deficient in caffeine. Our body is deficient in probably one of those three things. So when you start feeling brain foggy, cloudy, not necessarily as focused as you were earlier, slam some water, put some magnesium in that water, and ideally figure out a way to get some more oxygen, whether that be deep breathing, whether that be a quick 5-10 minute walk around the block. Those are all ways that can really help boost energy. So that cold exposure helps out with physical, mental, emotional, this resilience piece. Now with water and tea, that also helps out all of those as well, because just like you want to give yourself an external shower in the morning to prepare for your day, to make sure the body feels good, you need to give your cells an internal shower with water to make sure that all of those communications and functions are firing at the best of their capability. Otherwise, we're going to be slow. With tea, tea has a molecule called ECGC. I forget the long form word of it, but it actually helps clean up neuronal function in our brain. So brain cells that cause things to fire, so me being able to wave my hand back and forth, those are neurons that are causing my muscles to move, coming from my brain. And by drinking tea, it's actually allowing those neurons to heal and fire properly and optimally. I'm gonna have some tea real quick. Talking a lot. Tutor mode. I used to tutor neuroscience in chiropractic school. I tutored neuromuscular physiopathology, central nervous system, and peripheral nervous system for about a year and a half. So I really like science. I love teaching. Now with reading and meditating, this is still in the morning. With reading and meditating, depends on the topic that you're reading. Typically, I personally enjoy some kind of philosophy book. A lot of people like to read the Bible in the morning. And by reading just an excerpt, you're putting yourself in the seat of being a student, being a learner, and there's always something to improve about yourself. So that's touching in on much more the mental, emotional, spiritual aspect of the 4 buckets. And by doing so, you're allowing yourself to slow down a little bit, in which, for most part, a lot of people are just so up-tempo that they never give themselves an opportunity or permission to pause. So reading and meditating is a great way to make sure that you get that in before you start having all this output from probably 8 to you go to bed, which is a lot of output, not enough input, this is a great way to make sure that you're giving yourself a pause in the day. With that, so those are the big 4 pieces to cover, which is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. You want to be able to tap into those buckets consistently, daily. Now, how that relates to actual health of a human body, there are 5 pillars to health, in which case the first one is movement, so physical. Movement, nourishment, so food, regeneration, recovery, which is sleep, outlook, mindset, which is mental, and then function, which that is neurological. So you have those 5 things. You can actually imagine it as a house, in which case you have a foundation, you have 3 beams supporting the house, and then you have a roof. So the foundation of the house is nervous system. In order to do the things at home, such as exercise or eating correctly or sleeping well and thinking well, in order for all those to get properly integrated, you need to have a properly functioning nervous system. It's just point blank. That's what's allowing everything to get integrated and optimized to the best of the capabilities, and really to have the results that you want it to have. Now the pillars, biggest things to do is movement, sleep, and food. I'm starting to learn that movement and sleep are probably the biggest priorities and predictors for overall prolonged health span, not necessarily lifespan, but health span. How many years of your life are you actually being healthy? Exercise and sleep are the biggest ones for that. Then you have nutrition. You really need to be doing all 3 of those and being on top of it and being really objective about it. Now the roof that all these hold up and support is mindset and mentality, in which case you can tend to that as well. Whatever it is that your preferred practices are that help out with either stress reduction, increase mood, things that you enjoy doing, things you find joy doing. For myself, I like to think of a roof, a great way to put in a frame of mind, especially for things to do during the week, is asking someone, what are 3 things that your 7-year-old self likes to do? You come up with those 3 things, and then you have the overarching overarching theme of each of those 3 things, and then those are the things that you start doing weekly. So for myself, I really enjoy views. I really enjoy watching things fly, aka sports, throwing a ball around, playing sports, and I really enjoy some kind of Star Wars or Marvel. So for me, my weekly recipe that helps out with my mental outlook roof of my health house is 3 views a week, 1 day of watching something fly, and then 1 night of watching some kind of Star Wars or Marvel. So watching things fly, that can be like sports, playing golf, playing softball, playing volleyball, watching sports. Views, that can be hiking Pinnacle, that can be going kayaking, that can be throwing down my lawn chair, catching a sunset, doing my photography, love all those things. And then my entire childhood was Star Wars, and I also really enjoy Marvel too. So those are all 3 things that 7-year-old Chris enjoys doing, and I still do those things weekly, so that way it fills up my fun bucket, which feeds into my daily bucket, making sure that I have consistent energy and output. Other habits. So I really just covered the whole morning, which that was a lot. That was in depth. Next, we have daily sunlight is hyper important. Making sure you're having water before caffeine is hyper important. Putting magnesium in water, almost majority of all biochemical functions that occur in our body rely on magnesium to function. So if we're not having magnesium in our system, in our body, then our actual optimal function of our human suit is going to be less than. Very important. Shooting for 10K steps a day, I'm starting to learn that that is incredibly important for overall cardiovascular health. Not eating after 6 p.m. So sleep is critical. That has been something I've learned a ton over this year. I really dove into food and breath work this year, and as a caveat to that, also sleep. So with food, a great rule of thumb for your evening, for health, for overall longevity, make sure that your sleep is okay. Your sleep is one of the most critical functions for actual human health span, that is when we are healing, that is when we are recovering, that is when our body is regenerating and clearing out any kind of toxins that might have accumulated in our body from the days prior, or injuries, inflammation. A great easy way, rule of thumb, is do not eat 3 hours before bed. Try to minimize liquid consumption 2 hours before bed, and then 1 hour before bed, minimizing screen time. 3, 2, 1. The best thing that I've done, and this I get reminded of it every day that I don't follow it, is to stop eating 3 hours before bed. The reason why is when we eat closer and closer to our sleep time, then our body is going to have to digest and absorb all those nutrients and everything that we just ate during sleep. And so our brain is required then to allocate energy and resources in the form of nerve flow and blood flow to digestion and absorption, make sure that gets gone, versus actually paying attention and hearing where in my body do I need to send resources to make sure that it heals up properly to get ready for the next day. It really jacks up sleep. It's actually stressful for our nervous system. It takes us from parasympathetic to sympathetic during sleep, and during sleep we want to be as sympathetic as possible, or as parasympathetic as possible, which is rest and digest, relax, healing, recovery. So those are really big habits that I like to do. Very prioritize my morning, prioritize daily sunlight, prioritize water before caffeine, put magnesium in my water, try to get 10K steps a day, at least just get your heart rate up minimum once per day. Do not eat after 6. And then another one that I have had great success with is food, and thinking about what is easily digestible, what is more difficult to digest, and working my day from easiest digestible down to hardest. Easiest digestible is maybe something like a yogurt or a smoothie for our body. Next is going to be fruit and vegetables are easier to digest. Vegetables take about an hour for our system to digest, and then the last is going to be animal protein. So I started back in April, I started operating at that sequence, that interval of building my system up and making sure by the end of the day I'm having the most difficult thing to digest versus starting my day with the most difficult thing to digest. And digestion and absorption improved dramatically. Now I also get asked a lot, how do I need to think about buying food? How do I know what food to buy, what to avoid? Three super easy filters for knowing that you're buying quality food that's actually good for a proper human. Number 1 is, did it come out of the ground? If it didn't come out of the ground, if it's not from Mother Nature, don't buy it. B, does it have more than 5 ingredients? If it has more than 5 ingredients, it's probably made in a factory, it's probably chemical, it's probably not natural, it's probably toxic to our body, don't buy it. Last one, number 3, does it have a word that you cannot pronounce? If it has a word you cannot pronounce, same thing, probably chemical, probably factory, probably toxic, don't buy it. If you eliminate those things, what you're going to end up purchasing is probably going to be looking like Greek yogurt, it's probably looking like fruit, it's probably looking like some kind of really healthy protein. Personally, I like to use naked pea protein. One of the cleanest ones on the market, only has 1 ingredient, which is peas. That's it. Now, after that, probably going to be getting some kind of organic fruit, organic vegetables, probably beans, probably eggs, meats, typically lean meats such as chicken or turkey or some kind of fish. Also, steak is hyper good for us as well. We need to be consuming roughly about a gram of protein per body pound, per pound of weight. So for myself, anywhere from 170 to 200 grams of protein, which is a lot. Then by doing that, you're going to start gaining momentum for yourself day in, day out of actually eating clean, and your body is going to start being able to heal itself because you're giving it the resources that it needs, not the ones that are making it a toxic storm. Very important. Another mindset, not necessarily a mindset, is another habit. Take my mouth shut when I sleep. That's something that probably a lot of people are like, why on earth do you do that? I get asked that a ton. I read a book called Breath by James Nestor the end of last year, really hammering that mouth breathing is one of a causer of chronic health illness. We didn't start mouth breathing until we got exposed to fires as humans, as Homo sapiens. Then when we started cooking meat, the nutrients in the meat became more bioaccessible, which caused our brains to grow. We started developing a frontal lobe, which is what gets stimulated when you stay in cold exposure, like I was talking about 15 minutes ago. Frontal lobe started to grow, and that increased space actually took away space from our nasal cavity, causing our nose to angle downward instead of outward, and that made it more difficult for us to breathe out of our nose, thus resulting in people starting to mouth breathe, which messed up the orientation of our teeth. It also started allowing more viruses and bacteria to enter our system, and that's when humans started to get sick. When we look at skulls of ancient Homo sapiens, they have perfect teeth. They had no braces, they had no orthodontist, they had no dentist, yet they had perfect teeth, and now our teeth are messed up. Why? It's because we are mouth breathing. In addition, nasal breathing, it provides your body 18% more oxygen compared to mouth breathing. It also releases a molecule called nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. So when we have more space in our vasculature, it's going to decrease blood pressure, so it's shown to decrease blood pressure. And all of this dramatically helps sleep by preventing sleep apneic events, which is called ODI, oxygen deprivation intervals. Minimizes those from occurring. Our body's meant to breathe by nose. Even when you're clogged up, if you tape your mouth shut, your brain will realize, I can't use my mouth, so I need my nose. So I'm going to release the molecules, the biochemistry necessary to open up my nasal airways so that way I can breathe. It will do that, override it, happens every single time. With that all being said, that was a lot of topics. That was a fire hose. That was up tempo. So just to reframe, the biggest mindset that I can adopt to you guys after you're all probably thinking, okay, well, this is a lot of new concepts for me, never understood this stuff. And like I said, there will be many more after this that have actually go in on the science. Please check out Dr. Andrew Huberman, check out Chris Williamson, check out Peter Attia. But the biggest thing that I can hammer into everybody listening is that what can't be measured can't be managed. If you are not objectively measuring what it is you are trying to improve at, you have no actual idea if you are improving in the thing that you are putting energy and focus and intention to. So by actually getting objective with your tests on tracking what it is you're trying to do, then you can know if you are actually trending in the right direction or not. That InBody 3D Fit Scan that I did mention at the very beginning of this episode, very important. I'm probably gonna be doing that every 2 weeks. Get that done at 5 Star Nutrition. It's free, provides a lot of awesome detail. I get my nervous system checked every single week, make sure my nervous system is functioning properly. I track my sleep every single day with my Apple Watch. I track my fitness based off of function or output of quantity of push-ups, pull-ups, squats, and pike push-ups. Also, my time it takes me to get up pinnacle, measure all those things to know if I'm actually improving in my system. Now, if you're sitting out there and you're thinking, I don't think I want to do any of this, and this all sounds awful, then the question you need to ask yourself is, what do you want your life at the end, what do you want the last decade of your life to look like? What do you want to be able to do? Do you want to be able to pick up your kids? Do you want to be able, or pick up your grandkids? Do you want to be able to take your dog on a walk? Do you want to be able to walk up a hill, go down the driveway, go upstairs, be able to sit comfortably on the couch? Think of the thing that you want to do, and then start getting specific with it. Do you want a big dog? Do you want a little dog? Do you want to be able to walk up hills or just walk straight? Do you want to be able to walk for 15 minutes, 30 minutes? And then once you identify those things that you actually want to be able to do in the last decade of your life, then you go back to where you are now and you have to figure out, okay, what's the formula I need to start incorporating now? So then that way that is true by the end. Otherwise, you're going to be, the further gap that you have with that, then that's going to result in more, not necessarily despair, but just kind of potentially regret of being like, dang, I wish I had figured this out earlier, versus starting to do these things when you're 65 or 70 and being too late with it. So make sure that that happens early on, and tracking metrics, tracking everything hit up Dr. Peter Ataya. He is awesome to listen to. If you like more content like this, please check out our YouTube. Please check out our app called the Specific Centers. We're going to start doing YouTube lives starting in 2024, where we're going to be hopping on, dropping some kind of health nugget. Other than that, hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, and that there was a big knowledge bomb somewhere went off in your head where it's like, man, I need to really tighten this up. Probably going to be in one of the aspects of movement, of nourishment, of sleep, of mindset, or of overall neurologic function. Tend to one of those, put attention to that in 2024. And once you start doing one of those, you realize that you actually need to do all of them in order for that one thing to work the best. I'm Dr. Chris with The Specific. Have a great rest of your day. We hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Happier, Healthier Arkansas. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your guys' support. Please click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Thank you for joining us.
And if you're on a mission to help make Arkansas happier, healthier with us, again, please feel free to share this with anyone that you know so that way we can continue to help perpetuate the mission of making Arkansas the happiest, healthiest state on the entire planet.
Until next time,
See ya!